This is Chase Fraser of the Buffalo Bandits, and you're listening to the 716 Sports Podcast.
This week on the 716 Sports Podcast, we have one hockey team that's going to make a championship. It isn't the Buffalo Sabres. We have another team that just won their conference championship at the University of Buffalo, and we talked to head coach Jeremy Kerston, review the Buffalo Bandits' victory on the road and defeat at home, ending a long winning streak, and we talk with Chris Ostrander about Sabres game presentation, the state of the Buffalo Sabres, and maybe even take a little bit of a peek into Buffalo Bills free agency that has kicked off here with a bang here this afternoon. All this week here on the 716 Sports Podcast, and you can find this podcast like all of our podcasts wherever your favorite podcasts are found, on Podbean, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, whatever it is that you prefer to listen to your podcasts on, we are there. We're on Facebook at 716 Sports Podcast, or on Twitter at 716 Sport Podcast. We're on Instagram at what's our Instagram, Justin? We have 716 Sports Podcast on that.
Yes.
716 Sports Podcast, blasting some grams all around the world and bringing you the freshest Buffalo sports takes here tonight as we welcome you inside our Monday evening recording studio. It is myself, Justin, and Mike here to kick you off and talk about something that Justin and I were very involved in Saturday night. For the fourth consecutive season, the Buffalo Beauts are heading to the Isobel Cup Championship game.
I just want to say that's a prolific introduction, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Beauts.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Steve. What a game, huh?
That was a hell of a game. And more than the game even was just, the first thing I noticed is the building was incredible to be in. Physically being present in there, and we're not like up, it's not like going to KeyBank Center where we're way up in some press box above the building. We are physically about 3 feet away from the last row of seats, if even that far. And when the building is loud and when people are into it, it is a physical, like tangible energy that is in the building. And as soon as the game started, it was like that. Got a little back and forth, a little quiet when there was no scoring, and the Pred were applying a lot of good pressure. But man, as soon as that first goal went in, that building was never going to let up. And 4-0 victory, a shutout for Zabados in her playoff debut. Top line clicking. You called it Emily Falzer's best game of the year. I mean, there's so much going on that went well, and that team is going to be tough to beat. And
the future of women's hockey looks bright. If you're looking at that game, and then actually the past few Beauts games that we were at, the building was packed. It's good to see. It's a really great team the Beauts have this season, anchored by Shannon Sabados, but the building was electric. I've only seen it more full one time, and it was for the first time Darlene skated in an open practice.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we can talk about the other events later. I was honestly a little worried, like they're competing head-to-head with the Bandits across the street. A lot of people in Buffalo are, and myself included, if I wasn't calling the game, are active ticket holders, season ticket holders. You wondered if going head-to-head with not to say more established, but a longer tenured product across the street would affect the attendance. It did not affect anything. Like, people were flocking to the building.
The Bandits game sell out pretty regularly, right? Or close to?
They get pretty full in that building.
I put it on Twitter when I saw how full the game was. Like, this is impressive, citing that there's a lacrosse game going on across the street. It was pretty crazy.
And it wasn't just people who were there sitting on their hands. It was people who wanted to be there and be the loud crowd that was a difference for the home team. And I saw so many Beauts players over the last couple of days commenting on how much it meant to have that game at home. And, I mean, this team went 8-0 at Harbor Center this year. And I'm going to try to find it because I should have memorized the number. Their goal differential at home was insane.
See, I don't think we get the full effect of the energy in a building because we're up behind the crowd. When you're down on the ice in the lower bowl and all the sound is shooting down at you, it's much louder in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it echoes all around. I mean, that building is built to contain noise, and it's the best building for women's professional hockey, I would argue, possibly in the world at this point. That is like a consistent home arena, not to knock on anyone else's arenas in the C and the N and all that, but it's just, maybe I'm biased, but it's so great in there to watch that game, and the crowd was all the difference. And the team on the ice earned it all, too. I mean, you look down at Shannon Zabados, who, she didn't make a bunch of 10-bell saves, but she made a couple of doozies that kept her team even at 0-0 early in the game. Had that one big save late in the game because she didn't want to give up her shutout. 31 saves, so she was certainly fielding a lot of shots. And then you had an offense that was getting frustrated by great goaltending at the other end for a period and a half that just did not quit, kept crashing the net, kept firing pucks at the net until the first one went in. I think as soon as that first one went in, that just boosted the entire bench, and they just never let their foot off the gas to the last whistle.
Well, it was hard for her to start the game. Remember, she was fighting the puck early on because they had so few shots to start. At one point, it was 12 minutes into the game, and they only had 4 shots. So if you're a goalie and you're starting a game facing a shot every 3 minutes, that's you can't get into a rhythm. So you do fight everything. So it was a easy start, so to say, but it's a difficult for goalie to deal with that. And she fought through it. She weathered that storm. I guess you could call it a storm. But from the word go, the Beauts just kind of dominated that game. There was a point where they had the Pride hemmed in their end for about 5-10 minutes, and then the Pride kind of adjusted, but couldn't really get to anything sustainable. Right. It was always kind of back and forth. But after the first period, we just totally took over. There's no chance for Boston.
And now, at this point, we figured we would know what the championship matchup was going to be. The second semifinal was supposed to be Sunday afternoon, but because of travel issues, the Riveters weren't able to get in full up to Minneapolis to play the Whitecaps. So that game has been postponed to Friday night. Now, the championship game was going to be played at the higher seeds arena, which meant that a Riveters victory in Minnesota meant a home game here in Buffalo, but because of the difficulties of having all the ice time scheduled and booked in advance and not wanting to push out hockey to compete with the Frozen Four and other commitments that people have made, championship is going to be in Minnesota no matter what. So next Sunday, it's 2 o'clock Eastern. The Beauts will either play as the home team on unfriendly ice against the Riveters or will play a natural road game against the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps have been the top seed for the majority of this season. They went 3-1 against the Beauts this year. They are a very good composed hockey team. They played 2 very close games in Buffalo, one at KeyBank Center. The Whitecaps won, one at Harbor Center that the Beauts won. That would be an incredible matchup. And the Riveters, last year's reigning and defending champions, are no slouches either. This is the team that, in the concluding game of the season for the Beauts, beat the Beauts on their home ice. And you look at the pieces this team has compared to last year's championship team, there isn't a whole lot of pieces that are missing from that team. Just wondering if maybe just now they're going to get it all together and make a serious run for another consecutive championship.
And given the backstory to this game with the travel issues and the postponing of the game and them being there, having to stay there for a week now, I assume, I mean, it sets up the perfect underdog story. And there's a team that's going to beat the Whitecaps in the playoffs. It's going to be out of the 2 bottom teams. It's going to be the Wild, or I mean the Riveters. They have such a good team: Amanda Castile, Madison Packer, Rebecca Russo. That's just name a few. And those are there's a lot of skill in that team, and it's kind of just held back by their coach, who I don't think is a very good coach. He says there's no such thing as hockey
every team runs the same system.
I like that. It's interesting. I don't like that actually.
It certainly was. It was an answer to a question.
Made Steve smile.
Yeah, every hockey team runs the same system. Every sports team runs the same system. But so we'll keep an eye. Friday night is the 1 versus 4 game. The winner of that will play the Beauts on Sunday. Beauts do get the advantage of a little bit extra rest before the week. They're already in that game no matter what. But part of me wishes that things were a little different and maybe we could have a home game. But completely understand the position that the league was in, having to have the game scheduled and booked and tell fans where they can be. Couldn't rush the Riveters back from Minneapolis to play in Buffalo on Sunday. That's not fair to them at all. Thought about doing Saturday and Sunday, and the Riveters had to play back-to-back days. So a tough spot to be in, but I think, and for the crap that we can give them sometimes, very good, open, and honest transparency and communication by the league to just be like, hey, here's the decisions we made. We checked all the teams. Here's why we're doing it. It's just great to see a league have that kind of transparency and honesty with the fans about making a decision like that, and not just be like, hey, here's what we're doing. Deal with it. They're very upfront about it, and I appreciate that from the NWHL here today. We do have a little more hockey here on our opening segment. We're going to take a moment here to talk to good longtime friend and active supporter of what we do. UB hockey coach Jeremy Kerston will be joining us here in a moment to talk about his team's recent conference championship victory and their upcoming trip to ACHA Men's Division I National Championships, heading up to Dallas, Texas here next week. And we'll take a moment here to talk to Jeremy. Joined here on the 716 Sports Podcast by longtime friend and supporter of the podcast, UB coach Jeremy Kerston. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Monday night to talk with us here, Coach.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course. Now, this is the second consecutive year now that University of Buffalo hockey program has made their trip to ACHA Division I Nationals down in Texas, and the third year that you've been in charge of the team and getting everything organized. What has been so key as you've built this team that has allowed you over these last 2 years to have sustained success to the level that you guys have?
It's been the leadership of our upperclassmen. I've been coaching at the ACH level since 2005, and back then I was told you're going to be just as good as your junior and senior classes. And as you can tell by our senior class we have this year, and they were juniors last year, they're really leading the charge at this program. And if it wasn't for those 9 guys leading this team, who knows where we would be.
Now, similarly, because I know, as opposed to last year, you guys, with having the 9 seniors this year, how do you prepare, or try to prepare at least, for knowing that after the Nationals are done this year, you're looking at a very different top of your lineup? I mean, your 2 top goaltenders, forwards, and defense, a lot of change coming to the lineup next year.
That's a great question. I'm not worried about next year this week. We'll start. I mean, we've been looking at that for next year, but right now we're just focused on Missouri State. But we do have some. We have Austin Bianchi and Michael Lask, who are not young to this game, and they'll be seniors next year. They'll be ready to step up and take leadership roles. And we have assistant captain Penzie coming back, and Woody might be back for another year. He has eligibility left. So we're gonna miss Ryle and Wes and Cantor and that offensive powerhouse that they have up there, those 3 guys. But we'll look to make it up. You gotta get some strong recruits in, and guys that really haven't had the playing time they've had in the previous years will have a chance and opportunity to have more playing time.
So we would call.
Have to, work.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No worries. They'll have to work over the summer, and either step up, or we'll find guys who will step up next season.
So we've been calling your games for about 3 seasons now, and you lose seniors every year, but each year we see more and more of your fingerprints all over this team. In terms of I feel like this is the most disciplined team I've seen system-wise in a long time. I rarely see slap shots from the point. How do you drill that kind of discipline into your players?
From the point, that's really has to go off to Grant Ledger. He's forgotten more about hockey than I've ever learned. And one thing I've learned from him over the past 2 seasons is that the blue line is just there for the defensemen. I mean, for the refs. We're really getting our defensemen into play, up to the top of the circles. You don't need to take a slap shot to get on net, to get the scoring opportunity. Just get the puck towards the net, and use the whole zone, not just below the goal line and stuff like that. So he handles the D 99% of the time, and their strong play has really led us this year. Our goal scoring is down, but we're giving up barely 2 goals a game, and that goes to our defensemen and our 2 senior goalies. And I mean, like I said before, he's forgotten more about hockey than I'll ever know. So really, that defensive prowess really goes out to him.
Now, you mentioned looking ahead not too far down the road to just next week's matchup against Missouri State. And as someone who frequently goes through your social media for the UB Ice Hockey Twitter, a lot of posts this season pointing out that teams that were ranked ahead of you didn't have comparable records, hadn't played comparable opponents, a lot of losing records in the ACHA Men's Top 25. Do you feel that you guys are maybe a little bit under-respected and under-seeded coming into this tournament, given how your year was and how well you guys played?
I don't think we're under-respected. I think teams know about us. My whole point of posting that, pointing that out is teams with, winning percentages of less than 300 are in the top 25 is kind of a joke, and everybody outside the top 25 realizes that. But at the end of the day, it's really, the top 20 that matters.
Right.
And even for the national tournament, the top, 17 with, those 3 leagues always being outside the top 20, it seems. And, hope they underestimate us a little bit. That'd be great to catch them by surprise, but I doubt they will. They played over 40 games this year. They know how to be prepared for a team. They played the only team we have in common is RMU. We split with them. They handed them a pretty good 7-1 defeat. So we have our work cut out for us, but we have some different ideas on how to take them on, and we'll go from there. We got to watch some more game film and get to work on the ice some more the rest of this week and early next week, and give it our best shot. That's all we can do is give it our best shot, and if all 20 guys dressed show up, we'll be okay. Just no one can have an off game. One player has an off game, we'll be struggling.
Now, you mentioned film study and hitting the ice here this week. Does your preparation change at all this week as opposed to any other week, with the possibility of having a mystery opponent ahead of you if you guys win your first round game, not knowing exactly what's down the road in the tournament?
I wouldn't say this week. It was really last week was a different week. We come off the championship win, 2 hard fought, 2-1 win, give the guys an extra day off, and they come back, like we've done something. And at the end of the day, it's about making the national tournament and winning games there. We gave them, we had Wednesday practice and, gave them a little bit of a break, from being concentrated and working hard. And it carried a little bit over to Friday morning, practice. But today, when we stepped on the ice, if you wake up, at 6:05 on the ice, they were ready to go. And I hope they're ready to go on Wednesday, Friday, next Monday, and next Wednesday. We got 4 more practices before we take them on. And, if they know who we're playing. We sent them game film this today. I've been checking out the stats, and looking at certain players. And they have a pretty top kid from Russia, number 90, who's, like, lighting up the score sheet. So, obviously, we got to watch out for him. And we'll take care of him, no problem.
Now, one last thing before we let you go, and just want to make sure that we give you the chance to pump this out, is you've mentioned on the Twitter and everything that, because of the nature of club hockey and it not being a Division I sport, that, you guys are looking for any help that we can get to the program to, help fund the trip and everything. If someone who's listening is interested in helping you guys out, how would they go about doing that?
We're trying to work with the school right now to try and get an online donation set up through credit cards. So we'll probably hopefully have that in the next couple of days. And if we do, we'll post it on Twitter. But other than that, they could DM us and we'll give them an address. They can mail a check out to the University of Buffalo. And everything goes straight to the team and pays for flights, hotels, van, team meal. We have so many expenses down there. This trip's going to end up costing us about $20,000 at the end of the day. And, that's almost a quarter of our budget throughout the entire season.
Right.
So, it's a big expensive trip, but the guys have stepped up so far. Our flights are booked, our hotels are reserved. We got the vans ready to go. Just working on that team meal, and we'll be good. We'll be good to go.
Perfect. And everyone who's listening to this now can check our Twitter and Facebook as well. We're going to put out those links as they get made available. Thank you so much, Coach, for taking time out of your night here to talk with us, and we'll be looking forward to watching your game live on YouTube. Actually, next week the whole tournament's live on YouTube.
I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you guys for all the work you guys do for us. Without you guys around and the volunteering you guys do to help us out, our game presentation would not be close to what you guys provide us. And, the guys really do appreciate that and the work and effort you guys put in to support us, too.
Of course, anytime. And we look forward to cheering you guys on and remotely and then being back there for you back in the fall again.
All right. Hopefully we're down there for six or 7 games, 5 games down there. Hopefully we're down there for 5 games, and we'll see you guys, maybe late 26th or 27th with the trophy.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And thanks again to Jeremy for taking his time out here on a Monday to talk with us. I know he's got a young kid at home, so those Monday nights with everything, we appreciate the time and everything that he's done for us here, letting us be involved in the UB hockey program over these last 3 years. It's been a pleasure. So looking forward to watching that team and cheering them on here as they head on to Men's Division I Nationals down in Dallas here next week. And you can catch that game and all subsequent games when they win, all available on the ACHA YouTube streaming live for everyone to watch here back in the 716. We're going to talk with Chris Ostrander from Two in the Box about Sabres game presentation here in a little bit. But before we do, have still the most dominant sports team, I would argue, here in the 716 to talk about the Buffalo Bandits. Played 2 games as we were last here with you. A little bit of a mixed bag in Bandit land over the weekend. A road victory at Philadelphia and a home defeat at the hands of the Georgia Swarm. We're going to talk with Bandits Forward Chris Cloutier here in a little bit about the whole weekend and his transition from Philadelphia here to Buffalo. But let's talk about the team's transition, Steve, from Philadelphia here to Buffalo. That game on Friday felt like the classic trap game, at least how it looked in the first half. But, man, that team just showed they will not give up, and they did not give up. And good friend of the podcast, Chase Frazier, with the celebration of the year. I thought he wouldn't be able to outdo the push-up goal, but I love the little wind-up shushing of the crowd after that overtime game winner and how good that must have felt for that team to come back the way they did.
Yeah, a big 4-goal game for Chase. We'll give him, I told him already, we gave him some podcast juju because not only did he have 4 goals, he has the overtime game winner. But I would argue that the game the Bandits played on Friday was not all that different than Saturday. The difference was on Friday they put together a really good quarter in the fourth. They trailed the whole game. They were struggling offensively, and then all of a sudden the switch flipped, as I mentioned when we talked with Chris, that with 2 seconds to go in the third, Philadelphia scored, and that was their last goal of the game. And you go out there and shut out a team at home for 15 minutes plus. You shut them out the whole fourth quarter and shut them out for over 5 minutes in overtime. Credit to Vino and the saves that he made, because he made some beautiful ones, but they really turned it on as a team and showed the ability to overcome adversity because of the talent that they have. Now,
when we talked with Chase last week and you talked to some members of the Bandits organization while you were traveling with the team to Rochester, they say beating a team once is hard. Beating a team twice is very hard. And beating a team 3 times is damn near impossible. And it looked like at halftime you wondered, is the team really going to be able to win that third game against Philadelphia? And we'll talk to Cloutier about it, but the attitude of this team and the way that they responded to that adversity shows why they are positioned still, even after that Saturday loss we'll get to here in a moment, atop the NLL standings, because that team did what they had to do. The defense and the goaltending, boosting the offense until the offense could do enough to get that late game tying goal, and eventually the overtime game winning goal really speaks to the mindset of this team.
When the team is firing on all cylinders, you get the 19-9 win in Georgia, or the drubbing of New England on the road, or that game against Rochester at home when they won, 16-4. I don't remember how many they put up, but they only gave 4. And that's what's so dangerous. When this team is firing on all cylinders for 60 minutes, they run teams out of the building. The issue, and I think even they would say, is that they're struggling to do that for 60 minutes. And against Philadelphia, it was for about 20, and it was enough. And they beat a good team, and and I'm not discrediting the win at all. A win is a win, and it almost feels like a win like that takes more character, because they didn't fold up the tents. They didn't say, it's not our night. They didn't look forward to Saturday. Like, they handled Friday's business, and they found a way to win, and good teams do that. So, yeah, for sure.
And none of that hashtag on to Cincinnati kind of chatter. They were like, no, we're going to come back in this game. We're going to win this game. I just wonder what Chase is even going to be able to do the next time he scores a big goal like that. He's running out of celebrations at an astonishing pace. But
then you transition to Saturday, as you mentioned, and you can say what you will. Generally in the NLL, a team on the second game of a back-to-back plays pretty well. Buffalo had an interesting travel schedule. They got back to the hotel Friday night. I asked Chase how long he slept. He said 45 minutes, and I laughed, but he was serious because by the time they get to the hotel, get settled in, they sleep, and then they had to be to the airport bright and early to catch like an 8 a.m. flight. And you know how that works. Yeah. You're there at 6:15. I mean, especially traveling with a group, you need to have everybody there and all your shit
they're traveling
organized.
with a group. They're traveling with a ton of equipment. They're trying to get everything coordinated and back so they can practice in the morning. And
they land
much that goes into that quick turnaround back-to-back. And I know it's not the longest of flights by any means, but what they had to do on that quick turnaround,
they landed
it starts to add up.
10 after 10. I was at the arena at 10. Watched Georgia shoot around, talked to Georgia's coach about that night and the team. I saw 3 Bandits in the building because morning was optional, and understandably, they all went and slept. They had a team lunch in the hotel at like 11, and then the boys slept until 3 o'clock. You know, they tried to catch up. We had a team photo at 5, so they had a busy day, and none of it's meant to be an excuse because, as I said, there's a lot of times that a team on the second end of a back-to-back plays better, but they look gassed. The passes weren't crisp, and they really looked like they were struggling. I thought, honestly, it was one of Dane Smith's best games I've ever seen because there were multiple occasions where he literally put the team on his back. Like, we need a goal here, and I'm getting one, and you're not going to stop me. And he showed some dominance. He asserted dominance on a couple plays that led to goals. But as a whole, they looked flat on Saturday, and I hope they're getting grace from fans. It seems like they are because that's tough. It's a tough schedule, and everybody does it, but it's tough.
Now, do you think the loss is more on that fatigue and buildup, or is it a combination of a really good Georgia team and they just seem to not be able to track any loose ball? There were no loose balls. Some of the passes weren't crisp, but just kind of bouncing off players that wouldn't normally miss the pass. Is it because of the travel, or do you think it's just one of those games that just sometimes it just isn't your night and the ball's just? I mean, Georgia seemed to beat them to every loose ball in 4 quarters.
What's crazy is the Bandits actually won the loose ball count, but I think that had to do with faceoffs because the faceoff win is a loose ball.
Right.
But for the most part, they are. They got outworked. I do think it was fatigue because it's the little battles that decide a game, and they struggled to get a reset after a shot. Like they try for the fresh 30, and instead of getting 3 possessions to try to score, they're getting 1 and done. Either Poulin was recovering the rebound, or they would not get the loose ball. Georgia, on the other hand, they enjoyed 4 to 5 resets sometimes on the offensive side, and this is 5-on-5. It's not with a man up. But Georgia was hustling to the loose balls, and I think fatigue played a factor.
I mean, I know quality loose balls isn't a real stat, but it almost feels like the quality maybe outweighed the quantity because every time that Georgia got that rebound, it felt like you could almost feel the defense just be like, ugh.
And the number,
go back to reset for 30 seconds.
The number of outlets Poulin was able to lead his transition with, it shows that the Bandits didn't have their legs. Because how do you stop transition? You haul ass to the bench and let the back door open. And I'm not blaming them. This isn't me being critical. It's a reality. They looked slow. They looked sluggish. And there were so many opportunities when Poulin was able to scoop a ball and send it down the floor and get a 2-on-0 or a breakaway on the other way because Buffalo's a little slow getting to the bench. So this is where you hope that this is a lesson learned type loss. I mean, you're not going to win every game. So when you do, what do you do about it? But no rest for the weary as they fly to Saskatchewan to play a damn good rush team.
Yeah, that is not an easy let your foot off the gas for any moment. I mean, there are no foot off the gas games in this league as it stands, and with the expansion continuing next year and new expansion drafts, there will continue to be just this division of talent throughout the entire league. But I mean, this is a rush team that isn't at the top of the West right now, but you know that every night they can go toe-to-toe with everyone, and the top-level talent that they have exhibited over the last few years that they've been so successful, that is a tough barn to go into and a tough team to play. You hope that they take the loss on Saturday like all right, we won a bunch in a row, but we're still 10-3, we're still top of the league, everything we're doing is great, let's just refocus. And that they don't question anything or don't change anything that they were doing that made them successful, because what they were doing leading up to Georgia, or maybe even leading up to Philadelphia, maybe they just got away with some things in Philadelphia because they played that great final 20 minutes to shut the Wings out entirely goal-wise. Mm-hmm. The team that was in that building that had that 16-4 win against Rochester, that can go and just absolutely shut down what you want to do for 60 minutes, that team can beat anyone, and we'll see what version of this team we get. Do we get the team that can do that for 60 or the team that can't figure it out for 30 that we've seen a couple times this season?
Well, and the Rush get richer today. Trade deadline today at 3 o'clock. They add Scott Campbell for virtually nothing. 2 second-round picks, one in 2022, and the 2021 second-round pick is conditioned only if they win the Cup.
So basically nothing.
I don't know what it becomes what it is if they don't, but their head coach and GM, Derek Keenan, said if we win the championship this year, 2 second-round picks is not a high price to pay, and he's damn right. That's a great steal. Soupy's a good defender, and Rochester continues their fire sale, sending Ian Lord to Colorado and Soupy to Sask. So
yeah, and we didn't talk because we haven't talked since any of this happened. They made a lot of trades in the latter stages of last week too.
Cut Billy D.
Billy D's gone.
Got a 2-game suspension to serve if he gets signed, but they
might
cut
make
him.
it prohibitive for teams to consider signing him.
And Mike
too.
Manley, they brought in and signed him to the active roster, so they've made.
But
a lot of
Territz
changes.
is gone. They bring in Benesh. Dawson's gone. I mean, Rochester. I'm in anticipation of that franchise's move to Halifax. It appears to just be a complete unloading, and not to kick them while they're down, but this is a team that, when they had all their weapons, scored 4 goals against the Bandits. It might be ugly for Nighthawks fans.
But don't
forget,
forget, I was talking to my wife today, and this is an instance where they're moving to a new market, and if they're able to draft Jeff Teat, now you're showing up to a new market with the number 1 overall pick, or number 3. Sorry, never mind. I'm way off because of the expansion draft. So that's silly. I'm thinking that they're going to be picking first overall, and they're not. So I'll shut up on that one. But maybe they're not. Maybe the new Nighthawks will get Jeff Teat. But yeah, so they are. It certainly feels like they're selling parts. I'm sure they're having the hard conversations with guys about Halifax. Benesh is not eligible to be franchised because he's 34 years old and he is a UFA, so he can sign anywhere he wants. Stiers is smart because he's going to get better compensation losing Benesh than he would have for Vitarelli, who's also a UFA. Vitz, I believe, can be franchised. So if the Mammoth really wanted to keep Vitarelli, they could franchise him and keep him on their roster and then trade him or whatever. So we'll see how all that pans out. But the Nighthawks certainly the most busy on this deadline weekend. They started on Friday and wrapped up today as we record Monday around 2 o'clock.
And not to dwell on this aspect of the league too much before we get to Cloutier in a moment, my understanding of the expansion, and you can correct me when I'm wrong here, Steve, is that players who aren't under contract, there's a little bit of a gray area on players who aren't under contract, but RFAs, free agents, who does or doesn't have to be franchised. And I've seen some discussion about this on Bandits Mafia, and I've talked about it with some fellow fans, that maybe the Bandits were a little bit ahead of the game with building the roster with some of the shorter contracts that they did, that may allow them to be a little bit more able to control their talent going into the expansion draft.
Well, the last expansion draft didn't hurt them. This one feels like it will. But the other thing to consider is if this team does what they're capable of doing and wins it all, which I'm not predicting that, or they're a good team, they have a lot of guys who are up for contracts. And when you win it all, these guys want to be paid. So that could be an issue in and of itself too. And I'm not projecting anything. I'm not a GM. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn on this, but if they go as far as they're going to do, one of the struggles that you have with these expiring contracts, these guys are going to want to get paid, and rightfully so. And we'll see how that works out. So cross that bridge when you get there. And I think any fan would sign on to win a cup this year and then have a different looking team next year.
Yeah, if there's a banner up on the rafters, no one's going to worry too much. I mean, people will worry. And obviously you don't want to lose any of these great young talented players they have, especially on the offensive side, how loaded they are when everyone's healthy on offense. But that pill is a little bit easier to swallow if you look up there in the rafters. There's another orange banner up there that has 2018, 2019
years,
on there.
right? You can't forget that part either. This is a long run for them. They win in, 2 in the early 90s, 96, and they go 12 years to 08, and they're on the brink of another 12-year drought, which for them they feel like is an eternity because the Bandits are championship or bust every year.
Right. So we're going to take a moment here, and we are excited to. Now, don't let the fact that I fuck up his name confuse you about how excited we are. I'm just bad at talking sometimes. Buffalo Bandits forward Chris Cloutier, who was acquired from the Philadelphia Wings, the second overall pick in last year's draft, is going to join us here in a moment. Talk with him about last weekend's games, the upcoming trip to Saskatchewan, and how he's adjusted here to his new role and new team here in Buffalo. We'll take a moment here and talk to Clooch.
Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast. Joined with another special guest. We have the newest Bandit, that's accurate to say, right? Chris Cloutier. Yeah, right? You're the newest Bandit to the team, right?
Yeah. No
moves done today, so second overall pick. Chris Cloutier taken by Philadelphia and traded to the Bandits a few weeks ago, sliding in nicely to that left side offense. Well, Chris, you guys are coming off a hell of a weekend emotionally, I'm sure. A game, and let's start in Philadelphia on Friday. That had to be emotional for you playing against those guys. Let's start right there.
Yeah, absolutely. A game like that, nerves are definitely high. And it definitely showed in the first half, for me at least. I was definitely gripping my stick a little tighter than usual, and I think that's pretty a given, considering that's a game. Whenever you're traded, you want to have a good game against that team. So, and so nerves were a little high, but once I got that shaken out, started to play a little better, and the team, it was a pretty tough and well fought game on both sides. And, thankfully, the boys pulled it together and were able to scrape out a battled win.
Now, that's a tough game going into on the road, playing a team that you've already beaten a couple times. We talked to Chase last week, and he said it's so difficult to beat a team multiple times like that in a row. But what does it say about you and the teammates that you guys were able to come back in that game, not just win, but come back late and then in overtime the way you guys did?
Yeah, it's it's something JT said before at halftime was, good teams can win games, but great teams that can find a way to win the tough games. Good teams can win easy games. Great teams can find a way to win those like that when you're down. So, we were able to find a way in the second half and pull one out heading to start out the doubleheader weekend.
Now, I don't know if you know the exact stat, but Philadelphia scored at the 14:58 mark of quarter 3, so 2 seconds to go in the third quarter, and then they did not score again. Now, I know you go out the front door. I talked to Troy a little bit in Rochester about, he said how big it is to have a goaltender make saves on the back end and how it can pump up the whole bench. Vino in the defense and you guys as a unit kept Philadelphia off the board for over 20 minutes, which gave you guys a chance to not only tie it with a minute to go, but Vino made some huge saves in overtime too. And we know in any sudden death situation, it's just got to be awesome to know that he's back there. That's got to, the feeling on the bench has got to be like, we have a chance here. We're going to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can look back and you see a goalie like Vino, you get a little bit more sense of confidence, and you know that he's going to make the big saves that you need a goalie to make in order to be successful. And when he makes saves like he does, and he does it so often, it doesn't only obviously save the goal, but it also gets everyone on the bench pumped up and ready to go out and do their job.
Transitioning to Saturday, this might be the one we don't want to talk about. Just a game where Georgia looked like they got out to the lead and you guys could never quite get your feet under you. And I talked to Chase after the game, and I don't mean to misspeak because you never want to lose, but maybe this type of loss at this point in the season, you guys still have first place in the league even after the loss. You guys were on a 6-game win streak. Is this the type of thing that can recalibrate you guys? It's not, of course, if you have the choice to win every game, you would like to, but it feels like a loss like this, if you guys can learn from it, build on it, it might be a little bit humbling, but now you guys can maybe hit the reset button and recalibrate after a loss like that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Obviously, we'd like to have every game go our way, but sometimes that's not going to happen, and we had a real good streak. I think that's where complacency can kind of come in, which isn't a good thing for any team. So you kind of need that, wake up call, and we definitely got it on Saturday. Played against a great team. We were riding maybe a little high, but that's a reality check for us. I can guarantee you that everyone on the team is doing what they have to do in order to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Now, looking ahead and off of that to this upcoming weekend's game at the Saskatchewan Rush. That's a tough word to say, Saskatchewan Rush. Does that affect your mindset at all? Just knowing that you guys want to get back focused, get right back in the win column, get a little extra motivation to prove that Saturday's game was just a one-off and you guys are getting back to your winning ways?
I don't think there's any more pressure on us or anything. This is a team. The reason I like playing here so much is that this is a team that comes in and doesn't really. We try not to think too much about the game and the outcome and what affects. So we get there and do our jobs and have fun doing it, and have each other's back each and every game. And that's all we kind of worry about. We don't really worry about the uncontrollables.
So talking about you kind of shifting from the game focus to more of the Chris Cloutier focus, you've had a whirlwind year. I mean, I don't think anybody projects a top 5 pick like yourself getting moved as quickly as it happened. Now maybe you're settling into Buffalo a little bit. Take us through some of the emotions that you were feeling. You get drafted 2nd overall. You got to be flying high. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, things in Philadelphia, for lack of better terms, don't work out. I don't know if that's the right words to use. Forgive me if I'm misspeaking. Then you find yourself on a first-place Bandits team. Walk us through a little bit of the roller coaster, emotionally, the highs and the lows of what's kind of happened since the year started.
Yeah, obviously it was obviously shocking. And then it also, it puts me in a place where, now I gotta talk to everyone back home and like everyone's asking, like, well, why did you get traded? Why did you? And, it's a tough question to answer. And so, like, I was kind of down on myself, just trying to figure out, like, what I gotta do better. But then that was only for a split second, and then once I, got into Buffalo and I flew out with the team on for the first Georgia game there, all those, negative feelings were gone. I was happy with where I am. I respect Philadelphia a bunch. I had a great time while I was there. I lived there, made some great friends with guys like Blaze, Frank Brown, Rambo, Anthony Jokum, who I all lived with, and they'll always be my friends, and I'll always respect Philly. But now, looking forward, I'm in a much better position here in Buffalo, just with where I fit in this offense, I believe, and then now. Philly seems to think that it's better for them, so and I hope it is, and I hope they have success in the future. And for me, from here on out, I'm ecstatic with where I am. I've always wanted to be a Bandit. I always grew up going to Bandits games, pumped to be here. I'm playing with guys that I grew up with, like Matt Gilray and Ian McKay, and I actually was neighbors with Dane and Kitchener. So, I'm super happy with where I am and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Now, one last question that we think is the most important question here on the show, because there's a lot of debate about what things there are and are not to do here in the city of Buffalo. No, you've only been here for a little bit of time compared to some of your teammates, but do you have a favorite restaurant or place to go here in the city that you've come to love in your time here? Favorite restaurant?
I gotta say, Jets Pizza has been kind of my highlight with Gilray.
We need to get a sponsorship from
for
them.
real.
That's too. So Chase
You
said,
and Chase both.
Yeah, Chase said those were his favorite wings, which we didn't edit out of the show, but we should have, because that's actually a misdemeanor to call Jets Pizza the best wings in Buffalo. But you can say you like their food. Don't get me wrong, but we should get Jets to sponsor our podcast, for God's sake. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, that's been mine and Gilray's go-to every Sunday. Usually.
Perfect. Well, Chase, thank you so much.
Chase.
God.
Boo.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Chris, thank you so much for taking your time here on this Monday. Good luck on the road trip here. I get going down to Saskatchewan, and we look forward to seeing you back here a week from Saturday back in Bandit Land.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And thanks again to Chris Cloutier. Cloutier. For joining us here on the 716 Sports Podcast here this week, the only podcast in Buffalo longer than Antonio Brown's entire reign as a member of the Buffalo Bills. We're honored at this time to welcome in yet another guest here on this action-packed edition of the 716 Sports Podcast. Good friend of the pod, Chris Ostrander, is on the line here with us. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Of course, I'm always happy to jump on with you guys. It's been too long.
Now, Justin brought up something that he's very passionate about. I know it's something that you're very passionate about. Justin and I went to a Sabres game together a couple weeks ago with our company tickets, and it's just something about going to a Sabres game. The product on the ice being what it is, and we can talk about that too, because God help us all what this team has done. But just physically, it feels like there's things that are missing, and Justin, if you want to pick up from me here, like things that are just missing. It's not everything it could be to even just go to a game these days.
So this whole thought for this general show, this interview came aroused at the Red Wings game a few weeks ago. It wasn't a terrible game. The game was, they won. It wasn't a boring game at all. But it's about my 6th game of the season. And I was like, wow, I'm really bored. This is like the same thing I've been to 6 other times. And I was like, I'm probably not going to come to any more games. I didn't pay for one all season. So if I got offered free tickets from work, I'm probably going to say no. Because I'm just like bored now. And it's like every game is the exact same thing. Nothing changes. And I was sitting there and I was like, this would be a good show topic. And who else talk about it better than Chris Ostrander, who's always you always add this kind of stuff on Twitter. Wait. So we welcome Chris.
Yeah, it's funny. I've only been to a couple of games myself this year, just due to ticket availability, coming in, just stuff getting in the way. But it's I was hoping and anticipating that things would be different this season when I went to games, and so from what I picked up on, it hasn't been.
Now, are there things that the group here perceives that would be easy to change, that are almost too obvious for them not to be doing, or is the problem just, is it the problem in Old Arena? Is the problem they're not doing enough between intermissions? Is the problem that people do the contests and can miss the target 5 times, and we can spend the entire intermission watching someone win $0 playing skee ball at center ice?
I mean, the one thing that I've always heard on is the fact that everything is sponsored, and then it's sponsored in a way that is very, it's not hockey focused, for lack of a better term. So you have things like the Aspen Dental Smile Cam, and then intermission, the flossing cam that they've been doing this year. That's harmless enough because it's intermission, right? So it's it's not in between play. But at the same time, everything is really apart from the game. And even when it comes to marketing the game itself, it's so very rarely anything comes up about the opponent or the status of the game itself. I mean, if it wasn't for the 10-game win streak and everyone was obviously keeping track of, going for 9 in a row, going for tying the franchise record, aside from that, we very rarely see any serious focus on, again, the opponent, the stakes of the game. If only they were playing better, and it just hypothetically speaking, Carolina was in town in 2 weeks, and I don't know the schedule well enough to know their next 2 opponents, but if you had a wild card battle, something like that they could really push, and they could try to up the rivalry aspect, up the energy level that people might bring to the building, just kind of an underlying intrinsic thing that would, ideally you kind of get down at the grassroots level, but you can even see that, and it's, I don't know if it's frustrating so much anymore. I've almost written it off just because I have zero expectations that they're going to change. It's gotten to that point where I just know that they're not going to try. Or if they're trying, it's going to be an absolute minimum.
You brought the floss can. Every time I see the freaking anyone floss in the jumbo jet, I want to burn the building down.
Well, I think when we talked about this a little bit last week, the existence of the floss cam is what it is. I think they're trying to, whether it's the right move or not, trying to appeal to the younger audience. The fact that the floss cam goes on for almost the entire intermission does feel just a tiny bit excessive.
Do you think that they, in an attempt to, attract the kids or the families, it's almost like they're making a sacrifice of people who are sitting in the stands who are actually a fan of the game? Like, they're so worried about the demographic that they're trying to attract that they're forgetting that more than half of the people sitting in the seats are hockey fans who like standings and stats and analytics, not just, a floss cam or a smile cam.
I think that I agree with that wholeheartedly. And a few other people have brought up different reasons that they might take that approach. The one prevailing opinion is that they're trying to be the anti-Bills. So if the Bills are defined by drunken debauchery and table smashing, the Sabres are defined by a family-friendly atmosphere. And I think they've probably taken it a bit too far in terms of trying to right that wrong, if you will, or overcompensate for what the Bills are doing. Because at times, and I've talked to a number of people about this, it feels like they're promoting a minor league baseball team with some of the stuff they do, only without the cool giveaways and jerseys. It's just like it's just so, it's very vanilla. It's very low, very low. I don't want to say low rent, because that would insult the work that the people over there do. I have an understanding of how difficult it is to script and plan out the games on a night-to-night basis and make sure that the show does run appropriately within the confines of a professional hockey game. But at the same time, like you said, almost an entire intermission worth of flossing versus anything that some sort of an in-arena, if you have Bull do it, or if you have another setup not dissimilar from what Marty and Duffer are doing, where you have someone going through highlights and breaking down plays and stuff like that. It would be, we hear all the time about how great of a hockey market this is, and how great our ratings are in the whole 9 yards, but why not double down on that? Why not capitalize on the fact that you have a captive audience and allegedly, or a very passionate fan base, and give them give them the really good stuff. Don't give them fluff. Give them some substance during a game. And even if they're putting a losing product out there, give the fans something else to watch. Give them something worthwhile. Give them an idea of what the team should be aspiring to. If you need to, I just don't. I'm at a loss for words sometimes. If this is just a poor marketing strategy, if this is like the most in-depth, out there PR strategy, say we don't want to attract too much attention to how ridiculous we are, so we're going to keep it really simple. I don't know. I know I'm sick of seeing them schedule 12.5 matinees every year and have them all be kids' dates. It's really gotten to the point where it doesn't feel like it's a major league team anymore.
My biggest
thing, I should say.
I'm sorry. My biggest issue with the presentation is I just feel like there's almost no heart in it, I guess. It's almost like, okay, here we are, we gotta do this thing again. And it's the same thing every time.
Yeah. It's like when Chris mentioned everything being so heavily sponsored, I think he hit it on the nose. It feels like instead of cool things to do during stoppages, it feels like you're living in a commercial. Everything is sponsored by someone. It's logos plastered on this thing. It's the Smile Cam brought to you by Aspen Dental. The Floss Cam brought to you by W1Y Dental or whoever sponsors that. Everything is just hey, look at the subway blimp. Nothing just feels like hockey fun. Everything feels and now a word from our sponsors while we shovel off the ice.
As some of us would appreciate going to a game, seeing an out-of-town scoreboard or highlights from the last period, or just something hockey related, instead of overswinging towards that family environment they're trying to overcompensate from the Bills games.
And here's 5 minutes of us promoting concerts that are coming up here to keep it.
Even right down to the opening introductions. I used to leave for the games extra early just to see the opening introductions. It's a cool, video shows on the ice, lights, whatever else. But
the boards in the corners.
Yeah, even this year, it's just the sword drops down, not even all the way to the ice, and then it's just a boring song with a totally mediocre video, and then they skate out on the ice, and it's just everything is just so
it matches the product they put on the ice.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's and that's Jesse, you brought something really good, and that's something I've been thinking about a little bit the last couple of years. Is that they the intro videos aren't even all that, like, they're not pump up videos anymore. They're they're not even really highlight packages. They're really highly stylized, highly focused features that on each player almost, and it's they've gone from like civic pride videos, things that you would think that the Convention or Visitor Bureau would use, to this year's the one that I just saw recently was fine. It just wasn't. Didn't make me get out of my seat. That's for sure. And again, is this just a case of where they're like, well, because the thing that you always hear them say, newspaper interviews, radio interviews, when the Blogger Summit was still a thing, the standing opinion that they held was, once we start winning, people will come back. And when we start winning, the energy returns to the building. And they're basically, I just don't know, are they sitting on their hands, just assuming, well, we're going to start winning one of these days. We're getting good players, so that's going to do our job for us? Because that seems like a really odd way to go about your business to me.
It doesn't seem like an event anymore. Like, a Sabres game should be an event. It should be a show, and it's not.
Yeah, like, I mean, we referred to the arena as a library. It feels like almost like a church service. Like, you go because your family's always gone, and like you feel obligated to, and like you enjoy it. And sometimes it's like you're part of the community, but people are like, Sabres games feel almost like a chore sometimes, I feel like, to long-term ticket holders. You go because you invested money, but it's especially at this time of the year when how they've fallen down the standings, it feels like, well, if something comes up, I won't go. I'll give my tickets to a friend. Oh no, what could possibly keep me from going to this game? Anyone, please suggest me something else to do.
So something I thought about it, I want to hear your guys' takes on this. Like, I almost feel like the ownership and the management understands and knows that this fan base is so rabid and starved for hockey that we're going to come anyways. So they can mail it in, because the games are still selling out. So what do they have to try for?
So they draft someone new every year and put them right back in the seats. And something else, I know, Chris, you're another guy who's very active on Twitter during games and everything. Something else that we talk about that I think is tied into this. So you're at the games physically for a home game, and home games are underwhelming. We've talked about that. But then they're on the road, and this team, compared to like all the other big teams, like think about the Kings and the Hurricanes and the Blue Jackets and all these teams that are so active, this team has almost zero social media footprint.
In an age where social media is
everything. I mean, people want to watch games with the team on Twitter, and you're lucky if you get a score update after a period half the time.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll put myself out there, I don't believe they said anything on social media about Ted Lindsay's passing,
Nope,
did they?
I don't think they did at all.
But the next day they tweeted about the Game of Thrones trailer.
Oh, yeah. And now, so to their credit, I think I jokingly said they could tweet that the next 5 replies to this tweet will get $5,000 in season tickets for life, and the only replies they would get would be nasty ones. But I mean, that Game of Thrones, like, that's the Game of Thrones thing is what we want to see more from them.
Right.
Like an acknowledgement that pop culture exists, acknowledgement that people do things other than hockey, and that you can actually tie that stuff into the team. That the players have personalities and stuff like that. And I sort of appreciated that they did that. I guess maybe the timing wasn't great, but yeah, the social media has been about the same. You just never feel like, again, like I'll tie it into what I mentioned during the game. You guys brought it up too, like the idea that, like, yeah, there are a lot of kids at the games, but there are also people there who probably fantasy hockey players, people who are keeping track of the standings, and out of town scoreboard highlights, some sort of live stats from other games would be helpful. And I think of that again when it comes to the Twitter aspect too. Of you want the thing whenever people like get after me when if I harp on them too much, is I say like you should be the gold standard. Like when it comes to Sabres news and NHL news, sharing it, reporting on it, informing people on it, the Sabres should aspire to be the best in Western New York, better than the Athletic, better than Buffalo News. And obviously there are caveats here that they have the news before these guys do, for the most part. Like most of the reporters in Buffalo aren't trade breakers, for example. But there are certain things, of course, a team just can't say. A team can't criticize itself, and that's understandable. But they still should aspire to be doing the best they can possibly do. And I don't believe that they're doing that in any aspect of what they produce. And I will lump the instigators in there. The two things I think that they are tremendous at is their TV product is very good. Say what you will about Rob Ray, but it's a good TV product. I think the Marty and Duffer duo in particular is world class, and their video crew, the team internally that does video work for them, is second to none. And I think they cleaned up this year again at the local Emmys, or at the Emmy Awards, I should say. They won a bunch of New York State Emmys again for stuff like Beyond Blue and Gold, and like they need more people who are the best in their business, and very often it feels like they don't have that, or if they do have it, they're handcuffed, and it's one of the two things that's happening. I just don't know where's the disconnect, and I think we could probably extrapolate this out to roster construction too. We're like, you would think that they are acquiring all this talent, yet it isn't congealing, and I don't know why that's the case. It's super frustrating because I would love if people talked about the Sabres the way they talk about the Hurricanes or the Stars, and they don't. So it's a pain in the butt.
Right, and it feels hollow kind of every morning you go on. You get your line combinations from like Paul Hamilton or Mike Harrington, not from the team. You watch the game, you get your score updates from your buddies or the reporters, not from the team. You get your goal gifts and everything fun from whoever on Twitter makes them, not from the team. I wonder if because of that, and if anyone else feels this way too, like I wonder if people don't connect to the team as well because we feel like these are just, we don't get to know the players. You mentioned, Chris, they're not getting to know their personalities and things like that. Like we don't, other than like the couple of players who we love for their play on the ice all the time, I wonder if we just don't feel that connection to this Sabres team the way we used to feel to the teams of the mid-2000s. And is that because of not feeling connected to the games, or isn't because of the product entirely on the ice, do you think?
I would think it's a little bit of both. And I think the fact that they can't win and win consistently, that there's probably an internal decision to say, like, all right, we don't want to put these guys out there too much just because we're liable to get negative responses. So, I think that's fair on their part to hold back in some things. But the example that I like to use is Nashville. And Nashville had a very unique base of support when they came into the league. So they had like that ECHL Southern Professional hockey culture, which is a little bit more collegiate. It's a little bit less, I won't say less informed, but it is not traditional. It is definitely not traditional. Like to say it's a non-traditional market is like really hitting the nail on the head. And so they have all those goofy chants that you hear at a college game or a junior game, but they love it, they embrace it, and they have cultivated that aspect of their game presentation. And I've been to a game in Nashville. I've seen, what they do at their games, and the game in particular that I went to. So again, my sample size might be a little small, but they were well out of the playoff race. They were having a really, really bad year, and they're playing Washington. It was a throwaway game. It was late in the year. They weren't making the playoffs no matter what, and the place was rocking. And to go back to what we were talking about with like how over-sponsored everything is, they would, just like the Sabres do, where they say, second period highlights are brought to you by Tim Hortons. They will sponsor their highlight packages, but like it would be like the Aspen Hill highlight package, and they would be able to roll back hits and saves from the game, and they'd pair it with some high energy music and other stuff that would ideally amp the fans up, and it worked. It worked beautifully. And again, like it was a throwaway game, and people were all about it. And there's a grassroots effort that I think the Sabres need to take, where I think there's two things they need to do. And it starts at a grassroots level where they have to identify 2 or 3 things that they want to do that will alter the atmosphere in the arena, so that not only when the team is good will it be loud and exciting and awesome, but when they're average to below average, it will still be pretty decent instead of a library. And I don't know what those things, I don't have the answer. I don't know what those things are. I think there are some cool things that they could try. Like I have a couple things in mind. But they identify those 2 things, and 2 or 3 things, and they stick with it. I feel like there's been a few times the Sabres have tried a few different things from a marketing presentation type perspective, and it just hasn't worked. like DJ Milk, for example. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about DJ Milk. I thought he was pretty harmless. Like, I've been going off a lot of like my characters that he like can't stand him. I thought he was harmless, but completely redundant. Like, you already have an organ, you have Bold doing the in-arena hosting, and then of course you have Jay Moran doing the I was like, you do not need DJ Milk. Like, I just don't see the point of having him. But he wasn't nearly as obnoxious as I was expecting based on reviews I've read. But like, stick with it. Stick with that. Stick with the flag that they used to do at the beginning of the game. But they want to do like a soccer style tifo, which, by the way, I think would be really cool. Like, kind of, figure out what the things that they want to target are, and then go all in on it. Like, don't half-ass it. Don't abandon it after 15 games because it's hard to tell if people are adopting it. Like, they've got to stick with it. And I think a good example of that was like the goal song. Like, I know that people are getting sick of it, and I would assume they'll change it pretty soon, but it was really well accepted when they introduced it. And for as bad as that season ended up being, it was kind of like an up and down year, like those rookie year. Like, that goal song got plenty of plaudits. And it was like they got a ton of credit for doing it. And they need to do more stuff like that, and they need to commit to it, in my opinion.
DJ Milk thing I thought was kind of goofy start the year. But as the season's gone on, I think he's really improved, and they found a way to make it work. But last thing on this subject, and we'll kind of wrap it up, I guess. Another thing that makes the Sabres games so boring, seem kind of goofy, is look at a Bandits game. Every time there's a Bandits game in Buffalo, I talked to someone who's been there for the first time, and like, I never knew they were so fun.
Doesn't feel like
That's
the same
a blast.
city.
And you're like, yeah, they're so much fun. And they get the crowd involved right away. Like Who's House, the Stain House, the Johnny Who chant, the box chant.
I mean, there's certainly things that play into box lacrosse that don't play into hockey because you can chant like that during the game, but certainly, yeah.
You could chant during a fucking hockey game. Like, get the fans involved.
I mean, the start of the Bandits game, you've got the bagpipe intro going down, and every year it's always a good, solid song and a good, solid video that hypes up the crowd. It'll hype you up as a player, but I just don't feel that the Sabres are putting that kind of effort.
Yeah, it's like what Chris mentioned with the Nashville packages. Like, you go to a Bandits game, it's an actual highlight package with like hard rock music that like you're like, all right, let's do this thing, and you go into the lineups, you meet the team, and even just like you mentioned the intro, Justin, like the Bandits intro where they go everyone through the roster, they all come out, they do the captains last, everyone gets super pumped. Everything about that game, it almost doesn't feel like you're in the same building.
It's crazy. It makes it so much weird because it's under the same umbrella.
You know what? Oh, yeah. You know what's funny is one of the loudest games that I've been to was a Bandits game where it was only. This was back years ago, but it was probably only about 11, 12, 13,000. It was just the lower bowl and the 200 levels and the suites. But that was one of the loudest games I have ever been to. And I have never felt any energy like that at any Sabres game I've been to.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
The Bandits thing's interesting. Sorry,
no,
sorry,
Chris.
The Bandits thing's interesting too because I was like, they're allowed to lead chants during play, which is prohibited in the NHL. So like that certainly helps because they can really jam it down your throat if they want to. Like with the save stuff. Sweeney does a good job. Like, by the way, like, Chris Winston is terrific at that job. Like, it's tailor-made for him. But yeah, that's a great point about that game where it was, 2/3 of the arena, 3/4 of the arena maybe full. And it felt louder than any Sabres game we've been to. And the one thing I always wonder is it a captive audience issue? And this is something that's out of control of the Sabres, by the way. Is like, they're marketing to a different demographic, I would think. But also, like, are Sabres fans more prone to just sitting on their hands? And it's just a matter of Bandits fans are there for the party. They know they're there for the party, so they're ready to go. Whereas Sabres fans are expecting a more business-like or family-focused atmosphere. So they don't necessarily have the same energy level going in. The other thing I would even add to that is I've harped on this for a little while, is like, what impact does the Canadian ticket holder have on this? Because not only the guys who just sell their tickets no matter what because they don't care to have them other than Toronto games maybe, because maybe they're literally like Maple Leaf fans. But I do wonder if there are, what percentage of their Canadian ticket holder base are hockey fans. and they are there to just see a game. Doesn't matter who's playing, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Winnipeg. They don't care. They're just here to see a game. So they don't care about the Sabres that much. So, if you have, I don't know, if there's 1,500 people in the arena to start that just aren't going to go along with the show, you're already starting from behind. And that's one thing I've always wanted to know. I wish the Sabres, my DMs are open if they want to send me a DM about it. Like, I would love to know what aspect that plays in it too, because I think that's something that they can't control that unless they're going to start denying season ticket holders from Canada. Like, there's so much you can do. So they deserve a little defense. I don't want to just pile on them all together, but they definitely do need to do a better job.
Chris, before we let you go here, why don't you take a moment here, just let everyone who's listening here know, who may not already follow you, where they can find your tweets and everything that you work on.
Yeah, you can find me. My Twitter account is at number 2 ITB _ Buffalo. So it's 2 ITB _ Buffalo. That's where you can find me on Twitter. If you search my name, Chris Ostrander, it might be easier to find because it's not the easiest handle to wrap in. But website's still going. I still post on here and there. It's 2inthebox.com. TWO, spell out 2 on that one. And then, of course, the Instigator podcast we do on pretty much a weekly basis. That's still rocking and rolling too. So, those are the 3 places you can find me most.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, Chris, for taking so much time and talking with us here, and we'll have to have you on again soon here as the season wraps up.
Yeah, no doubt. Always happy to talk to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks again to Chris Ostrander for coming on and spending so much time with us here. When I thought of this, I had to hear from him because he's always on Twitter, kind of talking about this kind of stuff. And every game is the same. Bubble soccer on the ice. It's Andrew Peters announcing the little kids taking shootouts on Sabretooth.
I can tell you're a power play guy because you called him Jeff Peters.
Yeah, the cooler Peters.
Ooh, better hope that Petey doesn't hear you on.
I gotta get a show of both of them in here. That'd be some.
That
awesome.
would be a show. So, guys, I know we've gone on for a bit here, but there are a few less things that I feel that we should touch on here, and we'll do a little bit of a lightning round style of last topics to talk about here on the show.
We should have a Thunder background intro into that.
Yeah, Justin, put some Thunder in the background.
Come on, producer.
Ready, set, Thunder.
Alex Nylander called up to the Sabres this week. Thoughts?
Glad he'd be here 2 games.
Glad he's not playing on the 4th line.
Yet.
Did it take too long for him to call him up?
He's been hurt, though. He has been hurt for the last stretch of time.
And everyone's, you gotta be patient with this kid. Everyone's so eager to get rid of him and just done with him already. I think he's a great player. He shows a lot of skill.
Buffalo sports fan. Want to get rid of everybody who hasn't performed within the first 30 days.
I mean, basically, they just want to write him off. He's been great since he turned 21, though. Maybe it's the ability to legally drink beer that's made Alex Nylander good again.
Sure, that's it.
That's 100% it.
People, I know it's you got to play the game on both ends of the ice. But at the same time, you need guys that just have offensive skill and don't just go score. And I'm okay with having a guy that kind of falters defensively here and there if he's putting the puck in the net and creating opportunities. And that's what Nylander is to me. He's got sick hands. He's got a crazy shot. He's got an NHL caliber shot for sure. When he gets time and space, he's going to score.
He can wheel too.
Yeah, he's got some wheels. I just think the kid just needs a chance. He needs time. I think he could have played. I think this year he's a numbers victim. I think a lot of guys are actually a numbers victim. I think Olsen's up here next year.
Yeah.
I think Nylander's up here next year. I just hope he gets time with decent players and doesn't make a mistake and Halsey benches him for the next 2 periods.
Banished to the fucking shadow realm down there.
This is a time. I know they want the Amherst to continue their Calder Cup run, but call up these guys. I'm happy they called Nylander. Maybe they called him up because he was least. They missed him least from the team. I don't know, but
they called him up because Eichel's suspended.
Give him baptism by fire. Throw him out there. Get him on the top 2 lines.
At least he is, though. Supposedly, he's with Rodriguez and Sherry,
now.
line 2. But
give it a period. Steve, that's a great segue. Jack Eichel gets suspended 2 games for a illegal contact to the head hit on Colorado's Carl Soderberg. Mike, I know you, for one, are very, very passionate about disagreeing with the suspension.
Should I keep it clean or should I
go for
let
it.
it fly.
It's fucking bullshit. Soderberg skated in towards that puck worse than I skate, and I can't ice skate worth crap. He had his head over his skates, kind of flailing around, lunging in, right arm out with his stick way out to the side, left arm behind Eichel, left arm and head at Eichel's arm and behind Eichel. There was no way that hit was avoidable. I mean, what does everybody want Eichel to do? Teleport his ass out of there? I mean, it was going to happen. You have to look at the whole situation that it occurred in, and the whole situation that occurred was Soderberg skated like me into Eichel, and Eichel did nothing more than try to play the puck.
Listen here, I am the predictor of intent here, and there was no intent to hit him in the head. You could see he reaches out with his left hand to cradle the puck and puts all his weight under his back foot to brace for impact because he thought he was going to get ready into the boards. As Jack does that anytime he goes for puck along the boards. And then, like Mike said, Soderberg, instead of driving Jack into the boards, he leaned forward with his stick and literally skated face first into Jack's back.
There's at least one angle, and it could be that Jack is bracing for impact, which I'm even betting that that's what it was because he knows it's coming. But there's at least one angle when you watch Jack's entire upper body shift, and it shifts right into his head. And Soderberg does this 180-degree helicopter because he got hammered in the head.
But if you look at the aftermath where Eichel plays the puck, it's not like Eichel had to change his body position or hand position or arm position or anything to play the puck.
How many instances, and I know it might be apples and oranges, is there a receiver going over the middle and a safety who's lowering his head to try to hit the body to knock the ball out? And the receiver gets low, and it's helmet to helmet, and the receiver's mouth guard comes flying out, and it's 15 yards for a hit to a defenseless receiver. Yeah, intentions were not to pop him in the head. Yeah, the receiver went low. Yeah, the receiver should have... If we're going to talk about intention, then it gets really gray. Like, whether Jack meant to make contact with his head or not, he did.
How about hit initiation? Or the move that initiated the hit?
You're talking about black and white, and there is no black and white in this league.
Yeah, I mean,
sure, that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
That is part of the problem.
Jackie was said that today in his interview.
Yeah, that's 100% it.
Jack and Jake Voracek, who are both first-time offenders, get 2 games each for hits that I think were just defending themselves. And Gino Malkin, who's gotten a few different small suspensions in his career, goes flailing his stick around to whack a guy in the head and gets a single game. Or Corey Perry, who had a guy from behind after being a repeat offender, got nothing.
And Radko Gudas chopping someone's neck.
Well, you know.
If it was black and white, I get it. And actually, once I saw it, I knew right away he's going to be suspended.
You called it Saturday afternoon immediately.
Yeah, so that's a suspension. And but you look at the 2 angles from the front along the boards, it looks like a hit to the head. But you see that behind angle, and you can tell that he was cradling the puck and bracing for impact. He leaned and you can just tell by that there was no intention, and it was a total insular contact, and you could literally see Soderberg skate into his shoulder, face first. It's a speed of the game thing too.
Sure,
the game moves so fast, and Eichel's a tank.
He is, yeah.
But
I'm not mad about it.
I knew it was going to happen.
I feel like if that's McKinnon on Rodriguez or Middlestat, we're upset because we watch Middlestat go flying in the air and we see him spin around and it's like, yeah, he got him in the head. Like, I don't know.
If we're fighting for a wild card spot right now and this happens, I'm tight as hell. And there's at least 3 more F-bombs in this take.
But thankfully, the Sabres have removed themselves entirely from the playoff picture, so we can watch them lose to Dallas tomorrow night without Jack and just relax and enjoy ourselves.
I have tickets for next Sunday, and Jack will be playing, so I'm
there. You go. You waited just long enough to
yep.
buy those tickets, Steve. I'm proud of you.
Sabres are just looking for the earliest tee times they can get right now.
Yeah, they're golfing in this lovely winter weather.
That Sunday game was Nylander still in Buffalo?
Nope. Not a chance.
Nope.
Like I said, 2 games. The 2-game cycle suspended for.
Now that we know reportedly what Antonio Brown's return would have been to Pittsburgh to come to Buffalo, are you happy that it didn't happen?
Do you want me to identify it? John
Yes,
Clayton
please.
today on WGR says that the deal included number 9 to Pittsburgh with AB and number 20 coming back. So it was not they would have moved down. They would not have given up a first-round pick. Yes,
That's
they
fine.
would have given up their first-round pick at number 9, but it was not an exclusive number 9 for him. So they would have had a first-round pick still. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like apparently Clayton said that the Steelers really, really liked the Bills deal, but Bean had the intelligence to say before we sign on the dotted line, we want to talk to Rosenhaus. And Clayton was giving full credit to the Bills front office for having the intelligence to do that rather than making the trade and then having to deal with the fallout of him not coming here.
And then theoretically having to pay AB whatever kind of bonus or extension the Raiders gave him to make him one of the highest paid receivers in the league too, figuring that Buffalo probably would have also had to do that as part of
and
this
more
deal.
probably.
I wouldn't have hated it though. Like
Oh,
it's the best receiver in the league, given he's 31 and hurt sometimes, but they're going for it.
But if he didn't report to the Steelers, why would he have reported here for any amount of money?
What ended with the goddamn Raiders?
Yeah, the Raiders who are winning tons of games.
The Bills reject the quarterbacks.
I think the Raiders are going to be good. They have 4 picks in the first 35 this draft.
I mean, Matt Millen had 4 picks in the first 35 once, I think. You just got to know how to use them.
They're going to be good.
So they lose out in AB, and I love that you kind of see how Bean operates there. He's not afraid to call and inquire about that. Makes you think he could be in Beckham.
He was apparently, Nick told us in the Slack chat that the Bills were in on Deshaun Jackson, and they offered the Bucks a better deal than Philly, but he wanted to go back to Philadelphia.
But the Sabres lose AB, and then today
the Sabres lose AB.
The
Bills.
Wow, man, the Sabres are having a rough
week.
So they go from AB, Antonio Brown, and they pick up Frank Gore for $2 million, which I don't hate. It's low risk, maybe some kind of reward. But you know what? Gore is a super veteran. He's been in the league a long time. He's a super locker room guy.
Fourth
You
all-time
lose
rusher.
that Kyle Williams influence in the locker room, and you get it right back, if not more, with Frank
Frank
Gore.
the Tank.
So I don't hate it. He still got some in the tank. The guy can still ball.
I mean, I thought he played well last year in Miami, although in a limited role.
No touchdowns.
Yeah, but he also wasn't. Miami's offense wasn't good.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting a ton of goal line looks like he used to back in the day with the Colts. I
I
feel like
think-
his role is redundant on this team.
I
with
think
Ivory
what's
here.
damning the Bills. Sorry, Mike. I think what's damning the Bills is that was their first signing.
Yeah, for sure.
If it wasn't
yeah.
their first signing, people would have been more soft to it.
Yeah, they also signed a guy that is a year and 7 months younger than me, and for those who do not know, I'm 37 years old.
So I make it sound like I'm excited about it, and I'm not excited about it, but I don't hate it.
I'm with you. I'm
And
not mad
honestly,
about it.
it's locker room is huge. I'm a big believer in championships aren't one on the field; they're one on the bus.
Like the Blue Jackets.
And McCoy works out with Gore every summer, and they're good
Oh, that's good.
buddies.
I didn't know that.
They're good buddies, and if it makes McCoy happier in the locker room, it makes the team morale is increased.
Watch them trade Shady tomorrow.
That's a good running back room, in my opinion. That's a good running
It's
back
gonna be a hell
room,
of a thing.
and it's gonna positively affect the quarterbacks and defensive line. I just don't hate it like everybody else is going nuts about it. He is old, but it's a cliche Bills signing. They have the oldest running backs, oldest backs in the
He's a
league.
north-south runner.
And Bill's, I know Bill is gonna hear this tomorrow and go in a Slack chat.
He's gonna
and
strangle you.
He's gonna just rough me up verbally. But I don't care.
He's gonna abuse you.
I like Tyler Croft. I've mentioned that 1 or 2 times.
I
Hey,
paid a
Justin,
lot of money for a
did
guy.
you know that I play daily fantasy sports?
Rumor has it.
Do you?
Yeah, but I like Croft, and his role has been limited. Jeff, you mentioned he's been a career backup, which is true.
I mean,
but
he gets more play than your average backup because Tyler Eifert is basically a walking
always
body
hurt.
cast.
And Croft's a great blocker, which I know Clay was accredited to be too as well. But Croft's a really good blocker, and you watch him catch touchdowns from Dalton, and who was the other kid that played for them last year when Dalton got hurt?
Jeff Driscoll.
That's what I said, Driscoll. But I think he can play. I agree that they might have paid a little much for him, but when you have this much cap space, and this might be an example of like, look, we have to address the tight end position, so we're going to do it. And if this fills a need that they don't need to draft a tight end now, I think I'm okay with them spending $6 million, because to me, they're paying $6 million for a tight end that now they can use that draft capital somewhere else, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Right, you're paying
it
$6
takes
million
Noah Fant off the board at number 9.
Yes, unless they're still going to go that route. I don't know. We don't know that. But for me, it's like, okay, you have a position short up for $6 million now, and that's one less that you have to fill this offseason. I'm okay with it.
The receivers are getting paid today, though. Funches got
$13 million.
1 year, $13 million. Did they even sign that Williams guy yet?
Darrell Williams has not been
He's
signed.
gonna
Nice
get.
lot.
But he
Yeah.
is probably the only outside wide receiver available.
He's gonna
Because
get
everyone
six-
else is a slot guy.
If Funches is getting that, he's gonna pull only 16, 17
yeah.
million. And AB just got what, 20, 21 million?
18 a year.
18.
18 a year, 3 years, 54 million, 30 of it guaranteed, so that's 18 million a year.
That's insane. And then OBJ's gonna get traded and probably get more than.
Now, Justin, the Giants said they didn't sign him with the intentions of trading him.
He's gonna be traded.
Yeah, he's going to be traded.
I don't know. I don't think the Giants are smart enough to try to shop their assets and rebuild. They just let go of Landon Collins.
I don't know. I
So
think
we
if
could sign the biggest safety contracts with the Redskins today.
teams catch drift, if there's any blood in the water on the OBJ trade, some team's going to call with a ridiculous offer, I think.
If the Bills called him,
OBJ's been on the trade block for 2 years now. I don't believe it anymore.
Sure. I just think that I think that's a possibility. I don't know.
I think AJ Green's more of a trade possibility. I think there's a good chance that he is not in Cincinnati next year.
Sure. What about Julio?
Uh,
With Calvin Ridley down there and Sanu and I don't know.
I think Julio's pretty locked in there still. He held out for more money.
But it might not be up to him because the Falcons aren't getting any younger and they're struggling to get good. They might be looking to rebuild. If they were smart, they probably would, right? If the Falcons were smart, they would probably sell and rebuild. But
I think they ride out another couple of years on Matt Ryan while they can. And then,
not make the playoffs or sneak into a wild card round.
I think this team, there's not a lot of difference in the Falcons team that made the Super Bowl and then fucking blew it versus the team that exists right now in terms of the offense. And if anything, they're better on offense, I think, with the addition of Ridley. I think they still have another good run in them. That division's a toss-up every year. I don't think they mail it in. Maybe if they go 1-5 to start the season, maybe they reconsider. I don't think the Falcons are making that kind of move.
At this point, I want the Bills to go up to Tyron Williams, just pay him, and I would even just make it. You have some cap space. Make it kind of like don't go long term. Make it 2-3 years fully guaranteed.
As it stands, next year the Bills have the most cap space in the NFL.
You make it I'd be down to make it 2-3 years fully guaranteed. And if it doesn't work out, he's gone 2-3 years. And this way you can focus on the O-line in the draft. That's why I say do that. Because you don't worry about receiver in the first round. Just go O-line. Because that's what this team needs the most. That's the foundation of your house. You don't buy a house that has a bad foundation. And Josh Allen needs protection.
And the thing is, too, is there really a legit top 10 draft pick wide receiver in this year's draft?
I don't know. I don't think so.
DK
People are gonna
Metcalf
say
is very
Metcalf,
strong.
Depends on your opinion of DK Metcalf's ability to change directions.
Yep.
Well,
And
that's why I
the
said
fact that Hollywood
legit.
Brown is a top 10 receiver no matter what you think. I think Hollywood Brown is a top 10 receiver in this draft. Top 10 pick as a receiver in this draft, I should say.
Could he fall to 9?
In a defense-heavy draft like this, depending on whether teams jump up for quarterbacks, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
Who's the other guy now? Kevin Thompson? Not trying to derail our
That
conversation.
guy is it the guy from UMass or
He played for the Texans, first round pick in 2015, I believe, and
that guy, yeah.
just struggled to really make his mark because he was hurt. But now he's going to look like he's going to be competing for cornerback 2 starter.
I love the additional depth on the back. You can never have too much depth at that position. You figure you've got one side locked down with Trey White, then just get other guys around
Or
him who
Levi Wallace or Thompson.
Yeah,
on that side.
and Levi was great when he was called into action last year. Maybe they have things figured out in the secondary now.
So we're going to wrap this sucker up. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the
Thanks
716
to all of our
Sports
guests
Podcast.
today. Holy moly.
We got
to the gills.
We got phone calls today. Thanks to UB head coach Jeremy Kerston.
Yep.
Thanks to Buffalo Bandits Forward Chris Cloutier.
Chris.
And
His name is Chris.
Call him Klutch.
Chris
Thank you
And he won't
Cloutier.
mess it
Thank you
up.
to the other Chris Ostrander at twointhebox.com. Good Sabres talk there.
Big show for guys named Chris.
Yeah. A lot of Chris is going on here. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. We're trying to get the IG going here.
Tuesday trivia.
Yeah, we're on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this when it's released on Tuesday, you can pop over to our 716 Sports Podcast Instagram and win yourself some trivia.
Do this. Go on to Apple Podcast. Leave us a review, good or bad. We're going to review it. And if we review your review, I'm going to send you a $5 Tim Hortons gift card.
Boom.
You literally write something for free and we'll send you something for it.
Yep.
It's a win for everyone
Yeah.
involved.
Subscribe. Share with your friends. Tell them to subscribe. We don't get anything for this. We just want you to hear us. We want to infect your brains. We want to push our agenda onto you.
Yeah, force it onto you.
So just tell all your friends so we can infect their brains.
This is basically Hypnotoad, the podcast.
Yeah. What
Our
question should
agenda's better anyway.
What question should we ask the audience?
The random one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. You got one, Steve? Or
A McFlurry? A Frosty? Or what's another?
a blizzard?
Sure.
We want to confirm you're still listening to the show at
Yeah.
this juncture. So if
McFlurry?
you're still listening, go to our Twitter, go to our Facebook. You tell us what you prefer: a McFlurry, a Frosty, or a Blizzard.
Boom.
Bye.